Hello, hello. Welcome to Mindset to Results podcast show. And today our guest is Paul Angelle. He has amazing experience. He worked as CEO in more than 50 law firms and he is very obsessed with business growth. Hi, Paul.
Good morning.
Good
How are you?
morning. Good morning. Thank you. I'm great and I'm excited about our episode because you have so much experience, so huge experience, and also um, knowledge how to help businesses to grow. And you are upset with growth. And I really love to have you as a guest on our podcast today.
I'm happy to be here.
Tell us a little bit about yourself. How did you start your journey and how did you found your passion?
Well, um, I was all over the map. I don't I I don't know how old I look, but I was working full time in my father's restaurant back in 1983. I was actually very young, but it was my father's restaurant, so there weren't any child labor laws restricting it. But um, I worked in that restaurant through high school, through college, and I it really gave me a good foundation. I had to learn every aspect of a restaurant. I learned how to cook. I learned how to inventory food. I learned how to wait tables. I learned how to bartend. I learned how to um, do bookkeeping. I learned about health codes and health code changes. I even learned a little bit about fire suppression standards and how to make sure the equipment to put fires out is good. But I did all of that because it was my father's restaurant. I was very proud of it. I when I was in school, I would get all my teachers to come eat at night. I was always kind of marketing it. So I looked at business through the lens of ownership. When you look at something as the owner, you look at it a little bit differently than an employee, if you will. And ownership doesn't always mean you're the owner. It just means you have some pride in whatever the business is. You're very much perfectly aligned with the vision and the mission of the business. It was my father. I don't know, everybody's got different weird relationships with their father, but I didn't have a choice but to align with the vision and mission of my father because I didn't know any better. I didn't know any different. But I learned that that is the way. If you've ever seen a business owner watch his employees at work, and like they'll walk in the front door and they'll see a piece of trash outside the front door, they'll step over it and walk in the door. They won't bend down and pick it up. An owner will bend down and pick it up. But someone with ownership will, even if it's not your job to go pick the trash up at the front of the business, if you pick it up anyway because it needs to be done, that's kind of displaying ownership. So I didn't realize it at the time, but I was taking this with me to every job I had. And it really, really helped me advance in different roles and different jobs. But I worked in restaurants. I worked in sales. I had over 20 years sales management, sales training experience. Um, I I went to law school at night in my 30s because I thought I wanted to be a lawyer. I found out right before I graduated that I did not, but it was too late to quit. So I finished it. I started some businesses. I started media companies. I worked as a writer. I worked as a sports photographer. I got to shoot a World Cup and the Olympics and Super Bowls and all kinds of awesome sporting events. And I'm a sports nut, so I got to be close to the action for a job. That was fun, but it didn't pay well. I looked at lawyers and salespeople as people who made much more money, and I wanted to make more money. But I didn't want to practice law, so I started businesses. I made a publishing media company where I published a magazine. It was related to sports. I grew it, I sold it, and then I got into the solar panel business, totally unrelated, but it was very profitable. Got out of that at a good time, and went work for my good friend from law school. She had a law firm and she was growing, but she wasn't making money, and she needed help. So I went work with her, and we quickly turned it around. We got consistency with the revenue, and I was treating her lawyers like sales reps. And In a law firm, they treat lawyers like lawyers, and they lawyers are very smart and they're very equipped, to do their job, but they're just like a plumber or an electrician. They know how to do their job. They don't teach you in plumber school how to administer business. You don't. An MBA is something for someone that wants to run a business. They don't teach anything about running a business in law school. So while lawyers are very intelligent, they're very smart, they're very experienced, they're very focused, and they know what they're doing on the technical side. When it comes to the entrepreneurial side, they're teenagers at best. They think they know everything, but there's no foundation for that. So when a lawyer leaves a big law firm and starts a business, not any different from when an employee at a company decides to go out on their own and start their own business, they might know how to do the work, but running the business, it's such a learning curve and it's so hard. And it's why so many people fail, because you don't know what you don't know. And working with lawyers, I could understand what they did because they valued my sales experience. They valued my, business management experience, but I was focused on growth. And there's a few secrets with growth. And the first thing is I learned that you have to have motivation. Like I said, when I worked with my friend's firm, we grew the hell out of that firm. I mean, it started at 800,000 and she wasn't making any profit. Her and her husband, they were both lawyers. Um, by the time I started in 2016, by the time we were in COVID, they were over 4 million, and over 1 million went to them as profit. So they were happy with what I did and I was excited. But I noticed the last year or two that I worked there, I wasn't really busy. I had set up policies and systems and procedures. I had hired the right people. I had fired the wrong people. I had moved our office. I had changed the software we used. Everything was systematized. There was really not a whole lot left for me to do. I mean, I moved some furniture around, but they were paying me a lot to just be there. Uh, I wrote a book at work in my spare time, got it published. I researched my grandfather's World War II. He was a fighter pilot in the Pacific. I researched that. I found out all kind of stuff about that. I taught myself to fly a drone in the parking lot at work. If I'd have been really doing my job as the COO of that firm, I would have said, "Hey guys, maybe it's time to let that Paul guy go. He's not doing anything, and we're just paying him a bunch of money." They decided to change their firm and kind of run it remotely and change the structure. And they gave me a overly generous severance. I mean, to the tune of I didn't have to work for a year if I didn't want to. But I still put my resume online. I still looked for a job. The same day I got a phone call from a company, and they were looking for someone who had a law degree, but also had started successful businesses and had been a C-level executive in a law firm for at least 5 years. And I didn't think anybody had done that. I was kind of embarrassed of all my varied, if you look at my resume, it looks like I can't even decide what I want to do. I can't make my mind up. So I thought it was a negative, but to them it was a positive, because having the law degree and having the experience running a law firm, the law firms that were hiring us to basically be their fractional CEO, they would listen, because this wasn't just some, life coach or, workshop person. This was someone who had actually done what they did and had actionable results to point to. And I really excelled in the role. Now, it was a high performance place. They really pushed growth a lot, which I loved. I really, really fit that. I became obsessive about KPIs and my growth. I tracked it every day. I would go look at the dashboard or the reports, because I wanted to see first, I like to see the success and I like to see the progress. But if I saw the slightest decrease in anything, I was all over it in real time right away. I might have been all over it, but I wasn't going to go the wrong way. I wanted to see growth. I didn't care if it was slower or faster. The faster, the better. But as long as we're growing, I'm happy. And I want to see growth because to me, if you're not growing in business or even in life, you're regressing or you're shrinking.
Mhm.
Uh, but I found that I had all kind of tools and tips and advice, but 80% of what I did was mindset, different mindset, whether it was a scarcity mindset, I had to make it an abundance mindset when it was, I learned this doing this job, but a lot of people have some really strange, weird, confusing relationships with money. Like I'd never run into someone who was afraid of success, who was afraid to make too much money because their sibling, who was the favorite, wasn't doing that well. And it would be wrong for them to do better than their sibling. And that I didn't understand. I had to learn that that's a real thing for some people. I grew up in a competitive family. I mean, me and my little sister, if we just shooting the basketball, within 10 minutes, we're bleeding. We're covered in sweat. We're very competitive. If she succeeds, I'm happy for her, but I'm going to one up her. I'm going to do something better just to show, and then she's going to retaliate and do one better. But I think to me, that's how you get excellent when you're challenged and when you're encouraged and you're motivated. So I had to find ways to motivate people. And it was in that mindset area, and that's how I came to be working for myself. When I left that job back in December, I thought the best way to pour everything I have into something with the kind of security I wanted, the only way to do that would be if I started my own business and worked with businesses who wanted to grow directly. And it's it's been it's been great because it's working. And everything I said that would work, I had a feeling it would, but it's nice to see that it does.
Yeah, amazing experience. So let's speak a little bit more about these principles of success. And you said that most of um, factors, right, which influence, they related to mindset.
Right.
And how did you help these people to change those beliefs, right? Because the beliefs is in the core and they control the results, like the thermostat, right? Like it comes to a
Right.
certain point and then those beliefs just kick in, and people start sabotaging themselves, and they even doing this unconsciously, right? They're not aware of this. They just uh, their conditioning reactions, and those limits that which they put for themselves in their subconscious mind, which regulate their results in life. So how did you help them to raise their standards and understand that healthy competition, or maybe even not competition, but creation of something new which didn't exist before? Yes, like because powerful teams, they create, they don't compete, they create. So how did you help them to get from their old mindset to new mindset and see the bigger picture?
Sure. Well, you have to start at the beginning. Um, the book I wrote it's called Stop, Back Up, Grow. The purpose of it was if you're if you're stuck at something, or if you dug yourself into a hole, stop digging. Our instinct is to keep digging, and you just keep going further and further into this hole. So I want to back up. I want to get you out of the hole, back up. And sometimes this frustrates people because they're driving personalities. They want to go, 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 and it's like you're just spinning your wheels. We need to figure out what's wrong, and the only way to do that is I want to find out what is your purpose, what is your why. Why do you get dressed every day and do work? There's a reason for it, and I want to get kind of intimate about that. I want to get really deep and honest because when I ask a business owner, why do you do what you do? 9 out of 10 are going to say my family, right? They're going to say my kids or my wife or my husband. They're going to say their family. And I challenge them on that because that's a responsibility and an obligation, family member. And I anybody I know who has kids uh, would probably die or kill for those kids. There's no question that they're fond of their kids. It's very rare that I run into people who aren't fond of their kids. But that's not your purpose. That's not your motivation. That's not your why. Maybe your why is you didn't have the money to go to college and you wanted to make sure your kids were able to go to college. So a fully funded college fund for your kids motivates you. But I want to look at people's priorities because the priorities will shed some light on what matters. And whenever someone is stuck, no, it's my daughter. My daughter is it. That's the reason I do everything. I was like, all right, we're on Zoom or whatever. Let's open up your calendar, share your screen, and show me on your calendar, where's your daughter? And maybe once somebody has shown their kids on their calendar to me, outside of their birthday or their first day of school or some where they have to adjust their schedule. Uh,
Yeah.
your priorities showing up in your calendar. It also shows up in your checkbook, and you'll find your kids in your checkbook. So that's not as good of an illustration. But what gets you excited? What gets you motivated? What do you obsess about? Is it traveling? Is it work time balance, work life balance? Is it prestige or status? Or do you really, really love to go fishing? Do you really, really love, what is it that gets you fired up? And once we can have the conversation about why they do things, what is their why? Once we got our brain wrapped around it, then we start working on goals. The people I work with grow on average 60% year over year. And that's significant when you're talking a law firm that's making millions of dollars. An extra 60% next year, 5% is the industry growth average. I was delivering 60. So it was life changing. Because if you make 100,000 last year, you're gonna make 160 this year. Okay. How would your life change if you had an extra $5,000 a month? There's probably some things you're not doing or having or being today that if you had that extra 5,000 a month, you would be buying or doing or being, right? So I want to get specific about that. Let's have smart goals. What are you gonna get in the next 12 months if your income goes up? And don't even limit it or lower it. What would you do? What is that one thing you wanted to do? I've had people say they want to remodel their kitchen or they want to take a 2-week trip to Greece and go in helicopter rides and stay at a 5-star resort. Okay, whatever it is, it doesn't matter what it is. And I've heard so many different things. Some of them made me scratch my head, but it's okay. What's good about goals is they're personal and they're yours and they matter to you. So we take the goals and we find out what it's going to cost. What is it going to cost you to have this $300,000 sports car that you want so bad? What's it going to cost? How much of a down payment? What's it going to do to your insurance? What's the monthly payment? How much more money do you need every month net to in addition to all the other things you're doing, pay for this expensive car? Because this car, I mean, the guy that brought up the car, he had pictures of it. I could see it on Zoom on the wall. Like he adored this car. And we figured out he needed a $25,000 down payment and he was going to have to pay $3,000 a month. So I said, all right, when open an account, when you get that account to $25,000, if we see an increase in business that's enough to cover $3,000 owner income, you have my permission to go buy the car. And he goes, well, shouldn't I ask my wife? I was like, probably a good idea, but we've done the math. You can do it. If your wife says no, that's between you and her. But if she says we can't afford it, you can absolutely show her that you can because we've created the money for it. So when I do that, let's say when we go through all their goals and they want to do more savings for retirement, or they want to set up a college fund, or they want to go on a vacation, they want to get a new kitchen, and they want to get a new, all these things we put in there. And let's say this business they had made $1 million last year, and they were able to take out $100,000. I'm not super good at math, but I can do 10%, right? $100,000 is 10% of a million. Well, if you grow, that 10% is probably close to what you're going to get. So if you do $2 million, you could expect 200,000. If you did $1 million, you got 100,000. We figured out that he needed to make an extra $50,000 the following year, which meant he needed to do 1.5 million. So we created a business plan, but based on the 1.5 million wasn't just, I want to grow by 50%, because that's not motivating, especially if you've never done it before. What is motivating is the car and the trip so I'm on these personal goals. So everything is goal based. And then I have a spreadsheet that I made that it turns everything into math. We do everything from marketing to sales to the budget to the different, what percentage of revenue is coming from what different things that you make money doing. And it breaks it down by month and quarter. And so growth quarter over quarter. And then I hold them accountable to that plan. But the business plan, as comprehensive as it is, let's say it takes me 10 hours to help them create the plan. We probably spent 8 hours discussing their why and their goals. Once we got their why and their purpose, and we figured out what their goals are, now we've connected, because now I know some personal stuff about them. And when they tell me it's a goal, I'll be like, why do you want that? Why do you want that? It's like, oh, I didn't have one when I was a kid. Or, oh, my neighbor had one and I was jealous. Or, oh, my brother has, whatever is I'm getting insight into what motivates them. So once I've got the tools that I need to motivate them, I'm coaching them in an accountability sense. Like I'm holding them accountable to their business plan. And if they shared these goals with their stakeholders, and by stakeholders, I mean your wife or your husband and your kids, the people who matter outside of work, you don't want to tell them we're getting a new kitchen or we're going to Greece for 2 weeks and have them start to plan and prepare and think about it, and then come home one day and say, oh, sorry, kids, Daddy had a bad quarter. We're instead of 2 weeks in Greece, we're going to spend a long weekend at the crappy beach that we always go to. You don't want to have that conversation with your kids. You don't want to tell your wife we're not going to Greece or she's not getting her new kitchen. You don't want to tell your husband that the new car that he's been planning isn't going to happen. Nobody wants to have that conversation. That is motivation. That is what gets people to just do whatever they have to do to not have a bad quarter, because they would rather work hard and achieve the goals than have to say, I set a goal and I didn't accomplish it. Because when we set goals, I want to make $100,000 and we don't hit it. No, there's nothing to motivate us. We hadn't spent that $100,000. A big stack of money is cool in a TikTok video, but it's not motivating. What's motivating is when I look at money, I think of all the insanely ridiculous things I would buy if I could afford it, or the awesome places I would go if I could afford it, or the amazing, interesting, fascinating, wealthy person I would be if I could have it. It's not the money. And getting the motivation and connecting it to the goals. A really funny thing happens to mindset issues. The guilt is with the money, or the guilt, whatever the scarcity mindset or the thriftiness or whatever is stuck there gets replaced by, I need to make sure that I'm doing everything I possibly can and I'm doing it as best I can to achieve what I set out to do when I created my plan and I set my goals. And it's not necessarily that you're taking a abundance mindset and replacing a scarcity mindset. It's now you have a purpose. Now you have a focus. Now you have, and you're motivated and you know what to do, how to do it, and why you're doing it. And so when I say most of what I do is working on mindset, I'm not labeling the mindset and harping on mindset, mindset, mindset. It's like, you know what you said you wanted to do. Let's assume you were of sound mind when you made this plan. And now you're not doing it. Are you not doing it because when you made the plan, it was just too ambitious and it was too much? Or is it possible for some reason you're not doing everything you can to make it happen? And that's the difference. Because when you have a mindset issue, it's not that you're not doing everything you can. You get to a point and you stop because there's a fear of success. There's a fear of breaking through a barrier. And you start telling yourself stories like, um, yeah, making this much money will cause me to pay too much taxes. I need to stay down in this tax bracket. Or if I make that too much money, I'll not know who's really my friend, and who's using me because I have money. You start to tell you think you have no evidence to back this up unless maybe you saw it in a movie or something. It's not real. It's it's a mindset trying to keep your mind likes everything to be the same. If you've ever had employees and you change something, like you change the software, everybody loses their mind. They go crazy, they get angry, and they want to quit, and they use curse words. And we're just changing the software. It's gonna, it's gonna be a hiccup. It's gonna take a little extra work, but human beings do not like things to change. Your subconscious mind is trying to keep you alive and protect you from change because the brain doesn't necessarily know how to act. If a struggling low income single mother all of a sudden is a multimillionaire, what tools do you need in the new role that you didn't need in the other role? Every poverty stricken single mom wants to be a millionaire. None of them would say, oh no, I don't. I much prefer struggling. It's way better. Nobody says that, but the mindset is subconscious and it will limit you, and you got to remove limits. And the way to remove limits is to be motivated. I use this example because I'm proud of it. But when I was in high school, I was really fast. I was a fast runner. I played baseball and I stole bases and I ran down balls in the outfield and I ran a little track, but I was fast. When they timed me, my best time in a 40-yard dash was 4.4 seconds. And that's very fast. There wasn't anybody at my school that was faster. I'm 53 years old now. I'm pretty sure that if I ran 40 yards and you timed me, I would not do it in 4.4 seconds. Something has happened to me in the last, 30 or so years that has slowed me down. But why would I do that? Why would I run as fast as I can for 40 yards? Is there anything more pathetic than to watch men in their 50s race? You're going to fall down and break a hip. You're going to get injured. What are you doing? Why are you? There's no baseball game. There's no track meet. There's no motivation. But if I'm in the woods and I see a giant grizzly bear running towards me, I'm going to find a gear and I'm going to get, if not to my fastest time in high school, I'm going to get a whole lot closer than I would get just trying to, because I'm properly motivated. Does it matter if my leg hurts? Does it matter if I'm worried about my knee because I got in a car wreck 15 years ago? None of that matters. The motivation overrides all of the subconscious. And once you have motivation, the mindset doesn't stand a chance because you are now focused on an outcome or a goal and you have a purpose. And people who are purpose driven, you ever had someone you're trying to talk them out of something? And it may be a bad idea, and you might be right. And talking them out of it is being their friend. And you're trying to talk, and it didn't matter what you said, what logic you used, what facts you shared. The fact that you are going to lose all your friends and die probably if you do this. Like, still going to do it. You just get that singleness of purpose. Well, the secret is that you can control that. And the way you control that is you get in touch with what your purpose is and be honest, and you set goals and you set them and you make sure the goals track with the why. If your purpose is to spend more time with your family than you are at work in the next 6 months, but your business goal is to acquire 3 competitors and assimilate them into your company's culture in the next 6 months, that goal doesn't match your other goal, your purpose. And if what you're planning to do doesn't match your purpose, you've got to make a decision, or you've got to learn a little bit more about what it is that you actually value versus what it is you say you value. But all of this, the net end result of working with a business owner, having them back up, having them identify their purpose, having them set goals and plan and be held accountable, this new awareness, they just grow. You're just going to grow because you're aware of what happens if you don't. And you have goals, and you made a decision to achieve those goals. That's it's it's not any more complicated than that, but it's not like flipping a switch. You have to stop and slow down, because I'll talk to, when I bring someone on board, a new client, 9 out of 10 of them, all they really want is help marketing. They said their only problem, if they had more marketing, everything would be fine. They're good on everything else. They don't need a business plan. They don't need goals. They just need more marketing. Well, if they stick on that, well, then we're not going to work well together, because I'm if we determine that you need marketing, I'm going to help you vet a marketing company. I'm not a marketing company. I don't do marketing, but let's determine what's really going on, because if you're getting a decent amount of leads, you're just not converting them into clients. Problem might not be marketing, it might be sales. And that's something different. And more marketing is not going to fix your sales problem. It's just going to mean you spend money. But I don't assume anything. They can tell me what their problems are, but I'll know more about their problems by doing a, purpose exercise and setting goals and looking at their financial statements and those types of things. Then if what they said matches what that data tells me, then we can move quickly through that part of the process, but I don't skip it, and always have to back up and create a foundation for growth. And we also have to expect it to happen. I don't know if you have children or not, but when you're trying to get children to do something, it doesn't always work because you tell them to. If you tell a child to clean their room, they might not, but they're not doing it necessarily because they might be doing it for a fear of punishment of some kind. But telling them is not what ensures it's going to happen. Expecting them to do it. Kids don't do what you tell them. They do what you expect them to do. And so if you're telling this child to clean their room, but in your heart that they're not going to do it, your expectation is what's going to happen. They're not going to do it. But if you expect them to clean it, they're going to do it. I found, somebody told me that, and I tested it on my kids, and it worked. So look, I'm expecting, it's noon. At 3:00, I want to go to we had a health club that had this giant pool, and it had a kiddie pool. The kids loved it. A water slide. They loved to go there. I said, it's noon. At 3:00, I want to go there. And I want to go spend the rest of the afternoon swimming and doing whatever. So here's what I expect. I expect that your room is going to be clean because you would like to come with me. I kind of knew what their motivation was, but I was letting them know I'm expecting that room to be clean, every inch of it. And I did it not thinking it was going to work, but somebody told me that works. The room was clean in an hour. We had spent weeks fighting and drama and screaming about cleaning the room, and it didn't happen. But once I expected it to be clean, it got clean. I started doing this with employees I managed. They started doing what I expected, not what I told them. Because a lot of times I was telling them something, expecting them to do something else. And it's almost like a new age manifesting things. It's like investments. If you expect them to succeed, they're more likely to succeed than if you expect them not to succeed. I really, really think the importance is having motivation, having goals, knowing why you're doing it, and setting expectations and holding everybody accountable, most of all yourself. But once you're doing all those things, mindset issues have no chance. They just you're taking all the oxygen. They suffocate, which is what you want to do. But all of that work to me is mindset work. Maybe we're not identifying the mindset. There's only so much oxygen in our room, and if we give all that oxygen to positive motivation, accountability, um, purpose, and expectations, the kind of things that can, overthinking and self-doubt and things that could really torpedo success, they just don't have any oxygen to grow, and they die.
Yeah, it is to give the focus to what you really want. And if you get energy and focus to do right things towards that, the negative beliefs will be replaced, right? Like all
Well,
this.
as much as possible. I mean, some mindset issues are more than mindset issues, right? They're deeper. I'm not a therapist, but I think when business coaches try to administer therapy, that can be dangerous. Mental health is a, you know, medical profession, and it's serious. But mental health is a lot easier to address and work with if you can take out all of the surface level mindset issues that you can't explain, that have no logic or reason or rhyme or anything. They're just there, stopping you from having the life that you want to have. Once you address the mindset issues by stuff, but if you feed something, it grows. If you start putting a bunch of bird seed in the park, you're going to start having more pigeons than before. If you stop putting bird seeds, you're going to have fewer pigeons. So you need to decide, do I want more pigeons in the park, or do I want less pigeons in the park? But anything you feed grows, and anything you starve dies. Be aware of what you don't like. Be aware of what you do. Some people will say, I didn't even realize I was doing that. The awareness is the first step. I mean, you can't fix a problem if you're not even aware of it. You need to know. And your subconscious mind will keep you in the dark, because there's this, I don't know, primal instinct to keep things predictable and safe. Well, personal, professional, and financial growth is not predictable and safe in that mindset. It's scary. The growth happens when you're uncomfortable, and when you're scared, and when you're doing things you've never done before.
Yeah, I have a question for you. Did you meet people who find difficult to find what they really want?
Yeah, sometimes it's instant, right? I mean, some people know exactly what they want, and that's just who they are, and they've accepted it and dealt with it. I have spent a long time, and it we're sometimes it's a process of elimination. Is it this? No. Is it this? No. No. But when you're trying to find something out, a nice trick that I've had to use is, when was the last time you got really, really angry, like pissed off, like furious, over the top mad, where you just wanted to break something? You were so mad. Pay attention when you get angry like that, because you start to notice the trends. The things that make you the most mad, or the most angry, or the most passionate or emotional, the things that impact you the most, that's shedding a light on what you value the most. So if something threatens your relationship, or threatens your children, or threatens, but it could be something that's not quite as obvious. Like, I know some people that just lose it in traffic. They lose it, like they turn into a different person driving in traffic, and they're not the same person that we got into the car together, and now they're driving and they're a lunatic. Why does this make you so mad? You have every right to get mad. You can do whatever you want, but you know, I would advise not driving around with a weapon. You might do something you can't undo, but why is this making you so mad? And it's the inconsiderate other drivers, or it's the fact that there's always construction. No one, so why would that bother you? And you just keep asking why until you get past, well, it stinks. I don't like it. That's not an answer. Why does that make you mad? Because if you're getting mad about something, that's that's a little hint as to where the purpose is. You might not know what it is, but once you uncover it, you know, it could be that the traffic is making you late. And maybe as a kid, your parents were always late and you felt everybody was talking about you. And now you're one of those people that shows up early for everything because you were so horrified when you were late. But you can't be early if somebody's towing a boat and they got a flat tire and they got two lanes closed and there's a policeman directing traffic and nobody knows how to merge and you're losing your mind. Why? It's gonna take us longer than we thought. Um, why does that make you mad? Because that makes a lot of people mad for a bunch of different reasons. But when you start to go down that road, why are you mad? Because I'm going to be late. Why does the fact that you're going to be late make you mad? Because I said I would be there on time. Why does what you say matter? Because I'm a man of my word. Why are you a man of your word? Because I was lied to by now we're getting to something that it's not just I'm an asshole in traffic. It's not that. There's something under there. I mean, so along the way, all kinds of, issues and traumas can be addressed. But what we're trying to find is the motivation. We're trying to find the purpose. And that's in your values. That's in it's your purpose. If you value something, some people value honesty and they will they will be honest when they don't have to their detriment because they value honesty. Some people value money. If they value money, they likely would be dishonest if it meant there would be more money than if they were honest. Figure out the value. There's no right or wrong answers, and there can't be any judgment. You can't judge yourself. Or people say, I don't want to say this, but I'd rather go fishing with my friends from college than go to my daughter's dance recital. I don't want to say that out loud, especially don't want to say it to my wife or my daughter, but that sounds boring. I'm excited to go fishing without my family. Nobody wants to say that. But what if it's true? If it's true, one or two things can happen. You can decide what your proper motivation is, decide what to get what you want, what's that going to cost? If you're going to go fishing for 8 hours, maybe you could balance that with 8 hours of something with the family that they picked. That way you're getting what you want, but you're being who you need to be to get that. So there's a lot of self-discovery. It takes a while, but I don't move on until we figure it out because I can't set goals if I don't know your why. And I can't make a business plan if we don't have goals to tell us how much money and time we need. And I can't hold you accountable if you don't have a plan. So if it takes us 3 months to figure out your purpose, it takes us 3 months to figure out your purpose. Otherwise, it's not wasted. And it could end up being some of the best time you ever spent. But we're not really going to start growing for 3 months if we can't figure it out. So you've got to create an environment of honesty, and you want to resist any urge to judge yourself or judge someone else. Because I can't judge you. Some people have really, really strong maternal instincts. Some people will leave the hospital after having a baby and they're fine if they never see that baby again. And one is not right and one is not wrong, but we think one is right and one is wrong. And we're ashamed of it or embarrassed by it, but it's not. It's everybody's different and everybody is driven by certain things. Now I've done my thing with the calendar and said, well, your kids aren't on this calendar, right? They decided to start scheduling time on their calendar with their kids on a regular basis. And oh my God, how awesome is that? Bravo. You're in 1% of people do that. And that is going to pay dividends. That's not only going to improve your relationship with your kids, it's going to make them better people, and it's going to make them better with their kids because you decided to make it your purpose and not just talk the talk but walk the walk. But that's a good outcome. But it's also a good outcome to get real honest with yourself and say, yeah, I like going fishing more than I like going to the play with my wife. I love my wife. I just fishing's more fun. The play's boring. We're going because she likes it. It's okay. Acknowledge that. You might get in an argument about it because your wife might think that it's wrong of you to prefer to go fishing than to go to the play. But it's not wrong or right. It's let's find out where you are. And maybe the growth you need is personal. Maybe it's time to outgrow your college buddies and embrace your family and what's important and prioritize things based on goals. And goals can be, you can have goals for this year, you can have goals for 3 years from now, you have goals for 10 years from now. But what are your goals? We have a tendency to overestimate what we can get done in a year. All of us, we overestimate what we can accomplish in a year. But we underestimate what we can accomplish in, say, 5 years. It's like we're surprised that we are where we are. Think back 5 years ago and think where you are now. And I wouldn't have predicted this. This is faster than I thought. But if you look at your New Year's goals or your New Year's resolutions in December, you're like, well, I'm a lazy piece of garbage. I couldn't get anything accomplished in a year. It's because you overestimated what you could do in a year. But the reverse is true. The long-term goals we underestimate. But if you're really, really paying attention, if we're going to grow your business 60% and it's $1 million, that means next year you're going to do 1.6 million, right? That means you're going to do maybe $120,000 a month in business. Right now, you're doing 80. Look around your office. What's going to break? Who's going to quit? Who's jumping out of a window because we're doing 120,000 a month instead of 80? Because that's a big difference. But if we're up to, 1.5, well, if we 1.6, if we increase by 60% again, well, I'm bad with math, but what's 16 times 6? It's 60 and 36. We're talking about an extra $90,000, which means 900,000. You're going to be at $2.4 million. $2.4 million means you're doing $200,000 of business a month. And this is 60% growth in 2 years. Well, what your office space looks like and how many people work with you or for you and how much money you invest in things like marketing and bookkeeping and tax planning and all of those things is going to be wildly different from what it is today. But you shouldn't be surprised by it. But that's just a 2-year growth. I mean, the difference between a business that does $80,000 versus a business that does $200,000, and it's the same if you're doing $8,000 a month, going to $20,000. You don't have what you need at $8,000 to produce $20,000. You have to grow. You have to figure this out and scale to that increased revenue because growth is expensive. It's expensive. It costs you time and it costs you money. So that's why I say if people don't want to grow, there's no way they're going to do the things. There's no way they're going to spend the money necessary to grow. And if they're not going to do the things necessary, I don't want to work with them because we'll have weekly calls. I'm trying to hold them accountable. They're not progressing. Every call, if you've ever done coaching, you feel like that movie Groundhog Day. Nothing's changed since we last spoke. And nothing changed the previous time. And nothing changed. What are we doing? It's like the tires of the car stuck in the mud. We're pressing the gas as hard as we can. We're driving as fast as we can. We're just not moving. It's a waste of time. Get a tow truck or get a jack or something to get you unstuck. That's what has to happen if you really, really want to grow. And you're not going to do those hard things and you're not going to spend money for a goal that is not really your goal. That's why it's, once we know the purpose and we have the goals and we have the plan and we have the accountability in place, growth happens, and the power that mindsets or a mindset has over us is diminished or eliminated, in my experience. But I'm coming at it from a place of, rather than address the mindset, I'm just stealing its oxygen. I'm making it impotent. It can't do anything. And you know, there's other ways to address mindset issues, really embrace them and study them and try to find out their reason. To me, it was just always faster. Pretend they don't exist and don't give them any oxygen and they'll die. And for me, that's worked again and again and again. So I stayed with it. I'm not trying to reinvent the wheel, but what works for me might not work for you. It might not work for others, but it's a fact. If you take oxygen away from a flame, it goes out. So
Mhm.
give all that oxygen, turn it into motivation, and have it fuel your process and your daily activities and your attention to the details that need to happen every quarter, every month, every week, every day. Am I doing everything I can to do the things that I absolutely want and I expect to happen? Because your goals don't get achieved because you set them. But if you don't set goals, you don't achieve anything. There's no way to measure your success. And there's no way to know if you're improving if you don't have a way to keep score. And there's other ways than money.
Yeah, it is such a profound approach for these growth issues, right? And principles of success. I want us to discuss a little thing again. When you help people to set their goals and they get excited and they start moving towards them, they start doing what they are committed to do, and then it comes to the point that they face the barrier. Yeah, like they have a certain place when they start going backwards.
Well, and you need to expect that because it's always going to happen.
Yes, so how you help them in that moment? Because it is, yes, it has always happened, because when we have the big goals and they are out of our comfort zone, and when like at the place when we just speaking and thinking, yes, everything looks good, but when we start acting towards them, it is like it will come to the place where they will face the barrier, that when they start getting fear and doubts, and then if it is just what most of people do, they just bounce back. Yeah, so how you help them to stay on the track and continue doing things and break through?
Well, some things are beyond our control. Nobody that I know predicted we were going to lose 6 months of being able to do business in a year a few years ago with the pandemic. Nobody knew that was going to happen. Not too many people had a good plan for that. Um, those things you can't control. But when you have the confidence and the purpose and the motivation, you push through the expected or predictable barriers, because absent all that motivation and absent all that planning and absent all that accountability and that purpose driven focus on a goal, it was the little speed bumps were stopping you and they were turning you around. Well, if you're driving a Ferrari, you're probably scared of a speed bump because it doesn't take much to scratch up the bottom of that expensive car. It's really low to the ground. I live in the country. I have a horse trailer and horses and a cow and goat. I have a truck and it's big and I have a lot of clearance. I don't pay much attention to speed bumps. So if your anticipated problem is a speed bump, your vehicle needs to not be a Ferrari, it needs to be a big truck. And you're a big truck when you have all the motivation to push right through. It's just a speed bump. It's not a big deal. I can drive up on the curb. I can go up a mountain. I can do all kinds of stuff because I got the right vehicle. And I'm confident. Like when there's flooding on a road, little cars are scared to drive through the water. I don't care. I'm up above it. It's not an issue. So the confidence gets you, but yeah, you'll still have a problem. If the bridge is out, unless your car turns into a helicopter or something, you can't fly. It's not. So sometimes you have to pivot because of things you can't control or predict. The purpose of having a plan prepares you not just mentally, but with a plan of action. Like a good plan should have an emergency preparedness plan. What if there's a really bad storm? I live in Louisiana. We're close to the Gulf of Mexico. We have hurricanes every year. I think one's coming. We get one or two or three of these every year. We know about them. We know they're going to come. We track them on the radar. And when they come, the bad ones, man, they wipe out cities. They can be horrible. Well, we know that's coming. So why would someone where I live not have a checklist and a protocol? This is what we do if there's a storm brewing in the Gulf. Everybody takes home their computer, and here's the website to check into in case the phones don't work, and you evacuate. Everybody checks in, every 6 hours. We work remotely if possible. If anybody is stuck, there are emergency supplies in the computer closet. You have a plan for that because there's a strong likelihood that between now and the time that I die, multiple hurricanes are going to impact where I live. That shouldn't be, sometimes a hurricane puts people out of business because they had no plan for it. How did you not know that was coming? How did you not know we were going to have a rainy season? How did you not know that the electricity might go out? How did you have to have plans? And I push through the resistance that people working with me have. We don't need to do that. Let's work on the marketing, or we don't need to do that. We need to do that. We need to make sure we're comprehensive. But when you're comprehensive and you're not bulletproof, but you have armor and you're protected, and that gives you confidence and you blow through barriers. Sometimes though, the obstacles can't be, or whatever it would cost to overcome them is too great. That's when you pivot. You don't just retreat and say, I can't do it. Saying, okay, here's an obstacle. Here's a storm. Here's one of my employees died. I mean, any kind of disaster can happen, but an entrepreneur or someone that doesn't get stopped from achieving their goal will say something like, how is this storm an opportunity? How many companies made a lot of money making hand sanitizer all of a sudden?
Mm.
There was an opportunity there. Making face masks, that became big business. What is it you could do? And if you're competent and confident enough to ask yourself questions when everything seems like the sky is falling, having motivation and having confidence and having a plan and having strength and being purpose driven and having goal, all those things makes you the kind of leader that can say, wow, this sucks, but how is it an opportunity? And you ask people that question and you work as a team. How could we make this an opportunity? How could we benefit ourselves or others because of this roadblock? That replaces, well, here we go again. It all sounded good, but it didn't work. And here's the barrier. Well, that kind of tells me you expected the barrier and you expected to fail and you expected the life to happen and you not to get what you want. So in those cases, when that happens, we got to go back and say, all right, let's come up with some goals that motivate you, because we need to push past that, because that's going to happen. There's going to be roadblocks. There's going to be pivots. Not everybody stays 100% on course, and you shouldn't. If you're driving on the road, a straight road, and your car's driving straight, if you lock the steering wheel and just stop paying attention, you're eventually going to go in the ditch or in the oncoming traffic. That's what's going to happen. You're constantly making little tweaks and little adjustments, and you're doing this kind of stuff while you're driving. Same thing happens in business. That's why it's important to know what your numbers are and to not know them. Oh, at the end of the year, this is how much money we made. No, I want to know, what's our profit margin in the first week of January? How did this profit margin in the second week of January compare to the first week? How did the third? What is the profit margin in the first week of January? And how does it compare to December? And how does it compare to January of last year? Knowing your numbers and getting reporting and embracing them and keeping track of the goal. If you pay attention to the pennies, the dollars take care of themselves. If you pay attention to how many leads your business is getting, the revenue takes care of itself. But you have to know all of your numbers, and that having that confidence eliminates probably 90% of the things that would have stopped you before. Nothing is bulletproof. Nothing is perfect. But when you get to the one that you can't push through, or the mountain you can't climb, what's the opportunity? All right, everybody else is going to come to this same mountain. Maybe I open a lemonade stand and make money selling lemonade to the people trying to climb this mountain. And then I could sell first aid kits. Or there's an opportunity in everything. And in order to see that, that's like next level leadership. But to see that, you have to have confidence in what you're doing, and you have to know where you're going.
Yeah, yeah. Thank you so much. It is really so valuable conversation, and it all comes to definiteness of purpose. Yes, like what we is explained here and discussed comes back to setting the big goal that's so big that it will be enough to give you that excitement and power, energy to overcome barriers. Yes, because if people don't have that big goal, if they're not emotionally involved with that goal, this
Then they
is how.
don't expect to achieve it.
Yes, it is another thing, that importance of believing that you can do it. Because if you just say something consciously, but subconsciously you don't believe, you say like, oh, like, okay, I said that, but who am I? I'm not enough. I'm not that. I'm not this, right? So if there is not alignment between what we want consciously and what is our inner dialogue, what we tell to ourselves, we will not get there. So it is very important to have it aligned, like consciously and subconsciously, what we really say, what we want, and how we feel, that we feel that yes, I don't know how to get there, but I know I can, and I am going to do whatever it takes to get there. So if there is that determination, like having the goal and be determined, as you said, that you are determined and you made decision, right? Like definiteness of goal and also this commitment of decision. When you make decision and as you said, even you tell your family like we are going there, right? Or we do this, it means that you're already there in your mind, right? So you should be there already at that frequency and see this picture as it is already real for you. And this is the key, how to get motivated and how to go through all these challenges,
Right.
because you're already there. But if you say something and you have doubt and you always think that, oh, it is not for me, how I can do that, this will not be aligned, right? This is how you will go
It's
sidewards.
important to be able to visualize the success that you want. It's kind of like if you've ever read a book and later on the book becomes a movie, and you go to watch the movie and there's an intense scene and it looks like the main character is going to get killed. Well, you read the book. You already know how this ends. Know how your year ends. Know how your life ends. Know how it's going to turn out, because you've visualized it. You've already read it. You've already seen it. You've already pictured yourself in that position. And we don't want to let anyone down. most people, we don't want to let ourselves down. And if we consistently let ourselves down, that just builds a residual mindset that's going to prevent you from doing anything. So you have to snap out of that, and you have to be able to visualize success. But if you've got a big goal and it's ambitious, you got to break it up into a bunch of little steps. It's like if your goal is to eat an elephant, you're not going to eat it in one bite. You need a one bite at a time. It's going to take a lot of bites to eat an elephant. But if that's your goal, you're going to chew, swallow, repeat, chew, but you can't, there are things that you can't do, but there are no goals that you can't achieve. But you just have to figure out your way of doing them and keep focused, keep the visualization there. A lot of people, I will tell them, if they say they want a specific boat or they want a new house, show me a picture of what you're thinking of. And we make a collage with like a dream board, all the things they want, and put that in your office where you can't not see it. Like put it next to the picture of your kids. When you're starting to think, well, this would be hard. So is it impossible? Can you do it? Or are you just not willing to do it? Look at your dream board. Look at your kids. Look at your purpose. Look at your why. Reconnect with the motivation, and things don't seem so bad. Like there was a study, I heard about it, and I'm probably butchering it up, but there was they would put like a rat in a tub of water, couldn't get out, and it would swim and panic, and within 10 minutes it would drown. Well, it was like 10 minutes every time, and then they took a rat, and at 9 minutes they took it out of the water and let it sit for about a minute. Then they put it back in the water. It would tread water for 12 hours. But when you think it's hopeless, you give up.
Mhm.
So having the goals, having the examples, having an accountability coach. That's why right now success in business is just a mandate. You have to succeed or you fail because every dollar counts. Well, when success is important, what's the fastest growing profession in business right now? Coaches. You need someone outside your business to come in and say, remind you about what your goals were, remind you that you knew it was going to be hard, remind you that, yeah, most people quit at 10 minutes, but we need to go 12 hours. Here, let me take you out of the water for a minute so you can realize that this might not be hopeless. But as soon as you believe it's hopeless, you don't expect the outcome, and you don't get outcomes you don't expect. If
Yeah.
if you are late for work, you're rarely surprised that you're late for work. You expected to be late for work. And it's possible your boss expected you to be late for work. Expectations are what happened, not orders or commands or requests. Expectations are what happened. So when you think about it in that vein, you can control expectations, and you do it by consistently doing the things you need to do on a quarterly, monthly, weekly, daily basis, and always have your purpose in sight.
Yes. And reflect, see what doesn't work, how to make it better, and do it better every time.
There's a restaurant where I live, and when they opened, it was a big grand opening. It was a giant, beautiful restaurant. And what they were selling, they brewed beer, like home micro brewed beer in the restaurant. Like they had the big vats and tanks and everything. It was beautiful. And they also had really good rotisserie chicken, and they put a chicken on a stick and it just kind of turns. So it was like rotisserie chicken and beer that they made. Well, the restaurant was well promoted, it was well marketed, and it was busy at first. And they put other things on the menu without much thought. Well, it turned out that one of the things they put on the menu were these spicy Thai ribs, like almost a Korean barbecue rib, real spicy, but and they had a pretty decent wine selection. Well, the wine paired with the pork or whatever, and people started going there for the pork ribs and the wine. Well, they envisioned a busy restaurant selling a lot of rotisserie chicken and homebrew beer. They no longer brew the beer. They still have chicken on the menu, but it's not like a prominent thing. Like they had a glass case and you could watch the the slow cooked chickens on fire and stuff. But they got rid of all of that. And that one restaurant is now like 30 restaurants and you can't get a table because they were able to adjust and pivot. Because if they would have stayed on their homemade beer and rotisserie chicken, they probably would have just closed. But they paid attention to their numbers. They realized what's happening and they corrected their course while they were driving. So they didn't, I'm going straight, damn it. I don't care if I run into a wall. Pay attention to what's happening and see the big picture, and don't be afraid to pivot. Just if you're changing your process, you're changing your goals, you're changing your expectations, be honest about it and say, this is why I'm doing it. And this is why it's better than sticking with the course. Don't just change every time it gets hard. Because that's the evil mindset still trying to get oxygen. Yeah, it's going to be hard. If it wasn't hard, everybody would do it better than you. Easy stuff is not hard to do.
Yeah, but it is possible. Yes, everything is possible when you have that right mindset and attitude, understanding that you are such a powerful human being with so much potential. And when you use your high mental faculties, your will, your imagination, your intuition, yes, all these tools will make you to succeed. And of course, as you said, inspect what you expect. Yeah, so always check what you really expect.
And
And
yeah, that's a mindset or a subconscious problem. When your expectations don't match your plans, fix that. There's a delta, and you gotta fix that, because if you don't, the plan's not going to happen. The expectation is going to win every time. Make your expectations match your goals. Make your expectation match your dream. Make your expectation match your business plan.
yes, as
So
and
not every business plan happens, but if you make a business plan and you stray away from it, that's fine. But if you had no plan, you don't know how far off you are. You could be going the opposite direction and you don't even know.
yes, and as you said, expectations wins and also subconscious wins. So be aware, as we discussed before, that awareness is so important. Be aware of those negative blocks, those negative limiting beliefs, maybe negative self-talk, and just write down if you find something there in your mind that stops you or tells something negative limiting, just write them down and paraphrase them, create opposite meaning, and just repeat that. Just work on those inner dialogues, on those phrases, because they are the same again and again. Every day we repeat the same things, and becoming aware of them, becoming of the language which we use when we speak with ourselves and also when we speak with other people, will help to direct our thoughts and use more powerful language.
Yeah, and awareness is everything, especially in business, but in everything you do. It's important to be aware of your bank account. You need to know if your expenses are more than your income. That's important. You need awareness there, because when you start running out of money, you need to pay attention to why am I not producing enough money, or why am I spending too much money? Your revenue needs to at least cover your expenses. It does. So awareness of the bank account, you're not surprised that you're $10,000 overdrawn at the end of the month. Don't wait till the end of the month to find that out. Find out, hey, there's only $500 in the bank and I got $1,000 worth of bills hitting next week. Who owes us money? Where can we let's do some revenue producing activities to make sure this. But you're doing that, in the week it happens, or preferably the day it happens, not after the month or the quarter or the year is over. So awareness of finances is one lesson that a lot of new businesses learn pretty quick, because you can't work without money. But awareness of those things that are trying to sabotage your success, i.e., mindset issues or subconscious fears or fears that we don't even understand why we have them. Awareness of those things is just like having awareness of how much money's in the bank. Because if you let those things fester, you start to accept that that's just the way it is. And you start to expect it to happen over and over again. And that will destroy your motivation. If it's not possible, why try?
Mhm.
Not trying to get onto a professional basketball team this year. I'm not going to try. Why? Because it's not possible. I'm 20 years older than the oldest player in the league, and I was never very good at basketball. There's no reason to try. But that's like facts. If I say I can't, my business can't make $1 million because I've never done it before. Well, I've met people that I could tell within talking to them for just a few minutes that they are not smarter than me. They are not more capable than me. They are not showing me anything about them that they could do it and I can't. And that's where the awareness comes in. Um, but it's also social awareness. Read the room, know what's possible, know what's not, but question the impossible. I might question, but wait, maybe a 53-year-old short, white, uncoordinated man can play in the National Basketball Association. Why would I think that? What evidence points to, but question it. I've questioned it enough to know it's not something I should spend a lot of time trying to do. But I can try to make $1 million with my business. There's far less talented and motivated people have made way more than $1 million in their business. And if I want to do it, study what they did. Think and Grow Rich. The whole purpose of that book, one of my favorite books, just
Mhm.
people who did it. Talk to someone who did it. Create a mastermind. Look for a mentor. And at the same time, be a mentor, because wherever you are on the chart, someone wants to be where you are, and there's someone you want to be them. And it's easy to learn how to follow if you know how to lead, and it's easy to learn how to lead if you know how to follow.
Yeah, really. And this book, Think and Grow Rich, is also one of my favorites. So I would be really glad to discuss this book maybe in next episode with you, because it is such,
Anytime. I made all my kids read that book. I mean,
yeah.
it's not a kid's book, but when I read it, I was in college, and I read it. I don't even know why I read it, but I read it, and then it was like, wait, I didn't get it. I read it again, and then I've bought so many copies of that book.
Mm.
I've dog-eared the pages. I've written in it. It have sticky notes in it, and I've had to buy a new one because I wrote all over. I treat it like you're in school, and sometimes you'd inherit somebody's textbook, and they just didn't take care of it. They wrote all over. They drew pictures. They put mustaches on all the faces. That's what my books look like, because I really, really dug deep into them. I actually have not a first edition, it's a second edition. It's the early printing from back in, I think, 1941. It's one
Mhm.
of my favorite possessions. Like it's an old copy of that book. And
Mhm.
I think it's one of those books that I think it should be done again. Like I think they should do a Think and Grow Rich, but let's talk to I don't know, Bill Gates and the Bezos from Amazon and Elon Musk, and talk to the people and do the same kind of thing, but with not people from 100 years ago, people from today. But that's what you need to do. If you don't know how to climb a mountain, talk to somebody who did it already. Don't talk to the people who've never done it, because they're not going to give you any kind of positive roadmap or encouragement or anything. Um, if you're working out in the gym and you're just starting out, the people that work out a lot and know what they're doing, they don't judge you. The people that judge you are the ones that aren't showing up and aren't doing it. And you know, care more about what the people who have done what you want to do think or do than the people who can't do or won't do what you want to do.
Yeah, so I am really so grateful for this conversation. You shared so much knowledge, and I appreciate you for being an amazing guest today.
I'm really shy and I hate to talk.
Yes, so I'm looking forward for our next episodes where we will discuss Think and Grow Rich. We can go different chapters for different episodes.
Anytime, anytime. In fact, I have a podcast too. I just finished my 10th episode. I was all excited. In double digits. I think 10 is a milestone for some. A lot of podcasts don't get to 10. But it's called Inappropriate Growth. I named it based on my inappropriate relationship with growth. But I talk about businesses, and I'm usually interested in how they started and when there was doubt at first, and the origin of the business, and when they almost gave up, or when they were sleeping on the floor, working 7 days a week. They lost their house and their family because they were so obsessed with starting this business that was not succeeding.
Yeah, this would be interesting to visit and listen. Thank you very much, Paul. So I really appreciate your time and your expertise, everything what you shared, and I'm looking forward to speak to you again.
Anytime, anytime. And I'll send you everything you would need to
Thank
come
you.
on mine. All right. Have a great week, and thank you so much.
Thank you. You too. See you soon.
Bye bye.
Bye for now.